So, hello everybody, and thank you for coming to my show, and thank you for coming back for my talk. So, I'm going to talk today about my process, and like how I make work, and that's probably it. And and it's going to be quite formal, so I'm going to be serious. So. This is, I'll just let this roll through. This is just pictures of, like, in the studio while I made this stuff. It's terribly small, you probably can't see it. Can anyone see it? Ish? Not really? Okay. You could come closer, I really don't mind, I'll push it down there. Okay, so this show, the Beautiful Misery, the title was conceived by a friend of mine as we sat in the late hours and pretty much broke down what what painting was, and I mean it in an optimistic sense that the beautiful misery. It's a wonderful thing to be painting and to feel like it's interacting with you, and it's a really fluid and natural. And it's it's a misery. So, sometimes things have to be destroyed, and it just happens along the way. And I think that's what we were talking about when we came up with the title "Beautiful Misery," because these beautiful things come to life, and then just through the process of construction, some get destroyed along the way. So I mean it in a satiric type of, satire is the only logic type of way. So when I made these works, I had just come off a break from just last year. I'd gone to Miami and done a show in London and done a show in Hong Kong, and I got back to Australia, and it was time to relax. And my family and I rented a camper van, it's basically a house on wheels, and we just started driving around. During that period, I was thinking about what works I wanted to make for this show, and just the nature of them. So I was doing a lot of sketches. I was paying attention to things, which in turn became things that had nothing to do with the show, and everything along the way that was didn't seem relevant at the time became absolutely paramount. And it's funny how things, important things happen like that. So, okay, specifically about certain pieces, the painting out here, the kiss, it was constructed after I visited Norman Lindsay's studio in the Blue Mountains, and I saw this, this etching or lithograph that he'd done, and I was just compelled to draw it. And I haven't done that for many years, not since sort of younger art school days where I was be so attracted to Shields' work that I would feel like I wanted to draw his physical structures. I don't usually do odes to work in such a direct fashion, but this piece grabbed me, and I did sketches of it. And that's kind of how my paintings begin, with sketches, because when it comes to the point, and I'm talking about process today, when it comes to the point of like letting go, where starting unleashing. I see when I see a blank canvas or my room is set up to start a body of work, I find it hard to control just the impulse of actually putting things down. Like it's immediate. I immediately want to start touching and shaping these things. Not shaping them, just like violating them to the point where the actual current of what is already there starts to come out. And I see that, I feel that a lot with my paintings, that unless they're a struggle, in which case they need to be violated quite strongly and quickly, I find myself just kind of carving back what's already there, and the moves and the mistakes and the problem solution and all of this just it doesn't make sense at the time, but it has to happen. And so when I go to the blank canvas, if I can grab something in my hand and have some sort of anchor, some sort of draft of where I can just start with charcoal, then it helps the engine of what needs to come out. Otherwise, it's just it's wild. It's fun, but it can be what's the word for not productive? Oh yeah, but like anti-productive. Like I can go 2 steps. You know, you go 2 steps back quite quickly, and then to get back to blank is a hard thing. You see, all the problems start when the marks start in the studio on the works, because it's fine when it's all white. That's beautiful. There's so much potential. There's so much possibility. But as soon as there are marks, then I'm in the struggle. Then I'm in the battle of of each of these things. Either fighting back or working with me. If they're working with me, then I just, I really hope at the time that I have the foresight to see when enough is enough, because it's it's a very quick descent into a terrible pain. They're underage people here, can I swear? It's all good. Yeah, it turns real it can get very bad, things get real, unreal, real quick, and vice versa. Mess it all up. So really, and it's it's been said before by a lot of people that knowing when to stop is really the true. That's where the artist comes in. And I've constantly had a problem with that, but I enjoy that. And I read once Chuck Close quote saying, "I'm far more interested in problem creation than problem solution." And I think that's just painting to a T. Sometimes I'm enjoying these things so much, and I'm just and I take it too far. But really, I must be doing it subconsciously in order to be mindful of the moves I'm making, and then to counteract them not doing it. So that was on the kiss, and it turned into like my partner and I embracing, and after we'd driven around Australia and had all these wonderful moments, so we relocated in Sydney. During that time, I was about to drive through Sydney, had no plan to be here at all. And got a call, hey, that building that you did, I did a show in a building in an abandoned sex video shop on George Street, and I called the show Bogan Paradise, and it was all about Australian culture and just it just I made it in Queensland. I'd come back from some like living. Gosh, I'd probably came maybe New York, and it really impacted on me like what was going on here. Well, in good and bad ways. But anyway, so the show was called Broken Paris, and I was given a 3-story building to. Well, actually, I seeked it out with my scouts and independently produced an exhibition in this building. Anyway, 2 years later, I'm coming back through with my family in a camper van, and I hear, "Do you want that building? Do you want to use it as a studio?" And I said it to Annika, and she was just like, "Dude, I need more things to think about as far as moving again. Like, I'm just going to live in Sydney. I'll just have a look at it." So we just had a look at it, and it was ideal. Like, it was how it was. Completely ghetto, like condemned. Really, it was like a squat, which is perfect. So we could, do anything to the walls, do anything to the floors, and it was cool. So we spent about 3 months there, from March. Yeah, and then I had to go to Miami. I went to Miami and did an exhibition. And when I returned, I'd heard the building was not available anymore. And if there was okay, so the fire, that was a problem. I don't know if Jim's here, but yeah, when he saw those photos in the studio after, it's like, it was a situation where I was having to get people to sign waivers of their own physical safety because the building was so condemned, just in order to keep my hookup legally secure. I was really thankful to be using this space. Amazing. So it wasn't because of that. It was just like I had 3 kids sleeping in there upstairs, like painted downstairs. Like basically, he's like, "Oh, so you can use it as a studio," and I was like, "Bring the family in." So he was having trouble sleeping at night, and I completely agreed. So after I got back from Miami, I dipped out of there and was still building this show, right? So I built a lot of work okay, good. Like I built a lot of work in that space for this show. None of which are in this room, but a couple out there. And in that space, I did all of this light video stuff. Like this was in that space. As far as process goes, process has always been. I've always really embraced trial and error and mistake, and not to be like, what can I find here? Like I think I know what I'm doing, and I really learned that I don't, and that's how wonderful things just spawn just through this chance stuff. On that note, as far as chance. Hey Max! He's learned how to drop in yesterday. Yeah.
Just being matched up.
Oh yeah, that's exactly right. So on chance and accident, I didn't realise I was doing it at the time, but I obviously being a big fan of Brett Whiteley, and then in turn introduced through to Francis Bacon. And their constant talk of chance and accident and their embracing of it, and I unknowingly, several years ago, created this process where I felt like I needed to be more challenged with my paintings. So when I would paint a really great painting, I would want to paint the same painting but in reverse, like a mirror image of it. And I didn't do it with 2 hands, but that would be really cool. I didn't do it with a projector, like tools. I just did it by eye. And I found afterwards, after thinking about it and looking at the photos of it and thinking about the process, I actually was creating a beautiful thing by creating a mistake and then in turn solving it. And to keep the paintings at the same journey, at the same at the same stages, I would need to create the mistake on the other canvas in reverse, of course, and then solve it. So I didn't realize at the time that I was actually like embracing chance and accident, like in an actual, in a physical way, like like in a logical way. I was actually owning chance and accident, and then I started. I call it adventure painting, and it's a silly term, I'm sure, but it's like Indiana Jones searching for the Holy Grail of the aesthetics of the Holy Grail of aesthetics. Those key marks. So I call it adventure painting because hey, who knows what comes out? But somewhere along the line, you fight it until, or it fights you until you're happy to for each of you to walk away. Yeah, paintings are like they're like children. Yeah, and unless you're a parent, you may not understand the concept that of the guilt that keeps on giving. But the paintings themselves, they could always be more. They could always do more. Standing in the shadows of such great artists that I look at frequently and try not to get too hung up on, Rembrandts and Goyas and big deal painters. Just kind of strip yourself from that and just deal with the painting. And there are middle grounds. Now, I'll take photos of my paintings when I think that there are exit points, and sometimes there's many exit points. And sometimes I realise that I will be a better painter in the future, and I could have been a better painter now if I had known those exit points better. But that's the things you learn. The things that come after many problem creation. Chuck Close said also a wonderful thing where he said, "Inspiration is for beginners. The rest of us just get to work." And I don't necessarily I don't like calling it work, but I mean it is a piece of work. That's all definition. So, but when I see a blank canvas in my cage, in my cage, I just can't wait to get into that and do something that I don't feel comfortable with, But then that could, that's the beginning of 20 hours of just like stalking and hunting, and these sketches that I'll start out with, that's a fun idea at first, but soon I realised that there's a weakness, and it's either composition or materials, but usually it's about the concept and what it looks like. So there's a battle there. I can't just paint pretty things that are just pretty things. That just doesn't satisfy me. There needs to be some sort of hook, some sort of there's got to be an anchor, and it's got to be laden with ambiguous connotations towards one thing or another, preferably cheeky, because you know the best art I find, and I fail at it constantly. But the best art that I find, I see, I just want to smile at. I think that's true. You know, that's art to me, is seeing a work and you either like just straight up weeping, just like, oh my god, like, wow, I can't believe it. And I don't mean in a Las Vegas sense, you know, anything this big's that big's great. I mean, like, wow, like a red arm sculpture, like this giant thing that's really evoking. Or it's just really amusing, and I think that's the beautiful thing. I don't set out to make like disturbing or dark things. Not to say that oh, I don't know. Someone said Bacon. What did they say to me? Something like, "Oh, this guy's work's terrible. It's just so dark and morbid. And such an awful man. What a serial killer, psychopath looking up." And I said, no, that's actually you getting a reflection of your thoughts from that, you know. I didn't know him, and I haven't heard him say this, but he's, you know, he painted pictures, and you know, he dealt with the beasts as well in the cage, and you work out. I mean, yeah, he painted some pretty amazingly, you know, awful images of, you know, screaming priests and carcasses. But why are they so awful? I'm not sure. You know, everyone's got a scream, and carcasses and all. So back onto process. I've drawn for a long time, or that's what I do when, like, I don't have a studio, like I don't have a lab set up, I don't have things in hand. It's like maybe it's a obsessive compulsive disorder, or maybe it's a multiple creative personality disorder. Either way, I find myself rhythmically for a number of years, okay, like almost seasonally, just being satisfied or bored, content with one practice, and then naturally moving on to something else, like a block of clay. It's usually a block of clay. It's usually clay, sketchbooks, or painting. And it's just like I will get really obsessed in my sketchbooks, and you know, I feel anxious when it's about to end, because it's I put so much into it. And then other sketchbooks sit around when I'm painting or sculpting, and really they scribble whatever, you know. They don't get that love until there's a time when, you know, boom, I'm ready to move out of where I am. A mentor of mine once said, and it rang pretty true, he said a couple of really good bits of advice. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Kind of. I mumble, so let me know you're like, what? Oh, good thing. So he said, painting, drawing isn't painting, but painting is drawing. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, good, thank you. And he said another good thing. He said, a big brush can do little things, but a little brush can't do big things. And I mean that in a physical sense. So that's a bit on, like, technique or studio equipment that I use. I've tried to learn how to, you know, control a big flame to light, you know, a small thing, rather than a match to light a big thing. Yep. If that's a good analogy, I'm not sure. Thought of another good one the other day. Oh, okay, so now I'm just rambling. Process. Process. So I'll draw, and then I sit down and paint. And I really enjoy being in the studio and making things. Are these videos good? I don't know. It's such a small screen. Really, there needs to be some sort of enlarging ability for computers. Some sort of fold-out thing. I was thinking when I was painting, so I do these large paintings, like in the world when I travel, and I use long roller poles, and I have to deal just with the physicality of it, like my neck being bent that way. And this reminds me of a thing I was thinking of inventing, but it just seems so ridiculous. But like mirrors on your feet, so that you can rest your neck and then still see what you're doing. These are the sort of things you think of when you have a lot of time, like to yourself, or at least in your own mind, like nutting out, like what's going on here. I'm always better off to not look at pictures when I talk, because I get caught in the this is that, this is them. So I'm trying to train myself out of that. Process. I've always been more interested in seeing, or equally as interested in seeing artist studios as I am their work. Obviously I'm attracted to them through their work at first, but these glimpses of Brett Whiteley's studio when I was going through high school, really, it's not like I set up like him or wanted to, I just really liked seeing that was his process. It was the lifestyle that encompassed the creation of work, and I've just in turn now like work like that. And then when I make publications or I try to show my studios, so I'll try to shoot them. You see, process, on process, you have to, as a painter, or artist, you have to be a photographer, and you need to know how to make videos, and if you don't, you've got to learn. And it's just how it has to be, because you don't always have camera people around all the time. Hey David, how you doing? Cool, man. You just don't have those people around all the time to take photos, so constantly having to document yourself. And studios for me, I'm not sure exactly how it was. I mean, I know Brett went through a lot. I know, there's been a lot of really transient Van Gogh artists that have gotten and had to set up and then move on. And I feel like I feel a strong nesting quality where I will walk into like a cardboard box or a giant warehouse, either legal or illegal, and I will naturally see, if I'm spending time there as my studio, see things that need to change in order for me to actually evoke the power to make work there. And it's like lighting, but I've found that I'm very good at nesting and kind of just making some like things out of nothing. So I don't know what that is. It's like improvisation is the mother of invention, something like that, or adaptability. Is that a word? Adaptability. I made a new word up. It's called the irrevolution. Irrevolution. Is that new? No, everyone says that, right? It's a good one. Welcome to the irrevolution. Wrote it on all. See, new words. That's a whole other talk. So in process, how do I do it? I'm not sure, but it's like a force that just comes through me, and I have control, but I don't want to take credit for it. it's impulsive, and it feels very natural, and then it feels very unnatural, and then it feels very you know, frustrating in the sense that what's the next move? What's the next move? What's the next move? It's like this puzzle that's working through all of the motions of all of the variables, like a Rubik's cube or something. Not that I can solve those, but my son can, and it's crazy. That's not an easy thing to do. What I well, why? Don't know. Don't even. Not even really interested in the why. I just know that I just know this. You know, the sound it makes as I, you know, as I like execute it. It's not even. Yeah, it doesn't even feel like a part of me. I actually just the other night I was in the studio and trying to make sense of my process, my process, and I mean, literally, I'll work through reds. Okay, so I'll have, so I'll have I'll have a palette of red, and I'll have a room full of paintings, and I will be working on all of them at the same time, and feels very natural for me to want to get rid of the red palette on all of them, and then move on. I've always found when I'm working on a single piece that my mind is too active, and I'll paint over it several times, and it may have something to do with a short attention span, or just I don't know. I like to do lots of things. It feels crafty and systematic, and kind of like it's, you know, admittingly to like I feel like it's too productive, and but when they all come about, it's like cooking, I guess. When they all come about, then they surprise me. I'm like, wow, this is the stopping point, and it's screaming out, and I feel like they were like most paintings feel like they were concrete underneath sand, and I simply just blew with a high pressure something all the sand away, and they were always going to be there. It feels that sure. I never want to change paintings after they're finished, because I won't finish them unless they're done. And for, you know, except for like, you know, maybe some early works I'll see and I'll think, oh, that just shouldn't be around, and I want it just to be destroyed. Yeah.
Do you work on several of them at the same time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up to as many as I don't like to exhaust myself though. See, I've had studios where I've got control of complete warehouses, and I've stretched them to the max, and then I feel overwhelmed over time, depending on how much time I have. I've learned from bouncing in and out of and setting up different labs like around the place to set up different shows. There's a certain size room that I really enjoy working in. And the smaller the room, the more finicky I can get, you know, because I'm good at spreading out and being organised and tidy. And a small room can get it can get crazy. I mean, this is a small room to me. I'm used to kind of warehouses where I can hang maybe up to 8 or 10 of those big paintings out there, and I'll do that. And sometimes they, you know, sometimes when I have a plan and I have sketches and I have, it's all, sometimes it can work really perfectly, and sometimes it just falls down, and I deal with that, just by destroying them all in one way or another, and through the the cogs of problem solution, realization, conceptual and aesthetic. I mean, every variable can completely mess you up. I mean, you want to make educated decisions, but you don't. I don't personally always want to know what I want at the end. The shows where I've said I want, red, yellow, and black paintings, and it to be of, females, and it to be a comment on YouTube, and sexism in advertising, and I'll find myself nailing a couple of paintings, and then just like either trying to. Sometimes they can mix up.
You mentioned red, yellow, black. That's the Aboriginal flag.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
It's a lovely way of describing the earth. This earth.
Yeah.
I mean Australia.
Sure. All Earth, isn't it? Because it's like the sun and sand and people. Well, I mean, I didn't. I find those strong colour combinations, like intuitively within me.
It seems red is the color you've been talking, because you were talking about your red palette before. Is there a color that you actually dislike putting on your canvas?
Yes. But I find myself using it anyway.
Yeah, but is that because you want to have a reaction with the paint to bring you an emotion when you're doing it as like a statement? Or?
I think that's, there are things that I found that I couldn't use earlier that I can use now. That like an Eve Klein blue, I have not come comfortable with like really embracing the blues that like Whiteley used, and it's not to be steering away from like his. I just haven't felt comfortable with that yet, and it happens over time. Like I could not use purple. I probably still couldn't paint a predominantly purple painting, but I use it now. Yeah, it's funny.
As a music lover, I was intrigued you had a reclining piano. Was that in one of your labs?
Yeah, yes. That was in a show. I built two pianos. First one was in Berlin, 2009. The second one was in...
3 legs.
Everything was wonky. I really enjoyed making it. It was at Lazaridis Gallery in London in November. And I built it... it held a bronze, the first bronze that I had manufactured, and I was just so proud of it. So it was basically a plinth from my sculpture. But yeah, it was one I love to. I just don't see the problem or the troubles in making things like that. I played with wood as a kid because it was the only way to kind of hang out with my dad. When I'd get to weekends at his house, he'd be doing stuff, and I'd kind of I'd make shapes, and I'd say, "Can you cut this out?" And quick, and then I'd make it up. It's funny thinking of that later on in life. I built these iPhones kind of recently, a bunch of years ago, called the iPhone E. And they're just wood, and they look like an iPhone, and they're resined, and it's a funny thing to give as gifts, sort of like, Jesus is calling, actually, I made a iPhone orang, which was shaped as a boomerang. Yeah.
Did you come back?
The calls always get returned. But when I was a kid, I remember not having a Game Boy and really wanting a Game Boy, and I found a piece of wood that was at my dad's, and I asked him where to cut it. And I remember like getting around with this Game Boy for a couple of weekends, whatever, and just like imagining, me playing it. and thinking, oh, this is the best because I've got every game on this one. Funny how. And it wasn't me building iPhones and what else have I done? Like all sorts of different like mundane objects out of wood and just assemblage sculptures. I didn't think that that's where it stemmed from. And swords I used to make. I used to enjoy making swords, and that was kind of the first thing I would want to do is make swords. I actually asked my son because I was thinking what I was wondering what I was going to make next out of bronze, and I said to him, I said, Kai, what would you make if you could make something that lasted forever? And he said, does it have to be seen to be from me? The question. I said, no, it can be whatever you want. You can, anyone who sees it, doesn't matter. And he said a sword. Yeah, it is interesting. And then the swords visit me again in this show, which I'm really fond of. And I'm kind of sad that I put them all inside the bouquet in the middle of the room, because each of them, to pull them out, like they're beautiful objects, and they were a surprise to me to make. And it came about from making this painting over here, the sword, the flower sword, and I'm not sure how that.
The samurai swords are wonderful.
Yes.
Different shapes.
Yes, they are. I'm more interested in the warrior sword. Well, they're warriors, I'm sure too. But I guess I'm attracted to like a broadsword and like things like that. But we can't have the warrior turn into the warrior, can we? I have a problem with my practice getting gimmicks or philosophy. It's like gumball philosophy. But it helps me title things or come to the conclusion of the fact of what I'm trying to say. And
warrior in Monty Python. It's got no legs.
My brother had a python called Monty. It's true. Oh, okay. Yeah. So thank you very much for coming to my talk, and I hope I talked enough, and I hope that it was on process.
Anthony, thank you. I'm the Irwin bit of Olsen Irwin, which is new to the gallery, and it's very interesting that Anthony's work brings in as many young people as it has done, and I hope when you're a little bit older, people you come and buy his pictures as well as everybody else's. But it's always interesting to have artists who will talk about their work and help us talk about their work, and that is something that we appreciate greatly. We hope you enjoyed the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. Thank you.